Michael Butcher, lead show jumping coach for RDA. My role is to plan, implement and analyse a show jumping programme for RDA coaches, riders and volunteers to follow. This DVD will give coaches a clear understanding on how to deliver levels 1, 2 and 3, allowing our riders to be part of a coaching pathway, ensuring that the basic show jumping skills are practiced. The start of this DVD observes how horses and ponies are warmed up in preparation for a show jumping session. RDA coaches and experienced leaders will be familiar with this warm-up procedure, which is standard practice at RDA centres and is performed to allow the horses and ponies to be warmed up before the rider mounts. At this stage, the coach has an opportunity to check the horses for soundness and that the tack is fitted correctly. You will observe how the coach instructs the leaders to perform changes of rein and work through several transitions. She is doing this to ensure the leaders are in control. This visual assessment is of paramount importance before mounting our riders. You will notice some of the leaders swap from side to side when changing the rein. This procedure is common practice at this centre, and each RDA group will have their own method of which side to lead, and should continue to lead as they've always felt most comfortable to do. The tack has been adjusted to be used in a safe manner during the warm-up. Stirrups have been secured up and the throat lash is retained in the reins. During this warm-up section of the session, you will notice the leaders leading at 3 stages of leading in preparation for the lesson to start. These leaders are preparing the horses for level 1 jumping session, and even though level 1 is performed at walk, trot should be used to warm up the horses before the session starts. From now, the warm-up session differs to a normal flatwork RDA warm-up procedure. The leaders have been instructed to work the horses over poles on the ground. You will notice the leaders attempting to lead the horses over the middle of the poles. This is good practice to encourage the horse to work over the middle of the pole in preparation for when the rider is mounted. This is also good practice for the leaders. Once again, the coach is observing the leaders, leading the horse to the centre of the pole and checking they are walking correct jumping lines between jumps. The overall aim being that the leader's participation in this activity to walk correct lines will be passed on to the rider once they are mounted. You will notice that leaders are practicing leading at all 3 stages in walk and trot. At level 1, leaders need to show they are competent to lead in walk and trot over poles as seen in this DVD. This procedure will be assessed by your coach, and when control and good safe practices are shown, the leader will become qualified to lead in a level 1 session. The leaders are warming up the horses over a regional qualifier course, which consists of 4 elements. When using poles at level 1, the horses must be warmed up over the poles that are intended to be used before the rider mounts. This allows the coach and leader to assess the suitability and soundness of the horse. For example, if the horse attempts to rush, stop or shy at the pole, then the coach needs to evaluate the safety aspect of using that horse and may decide further training may be required before it's ready to be used in a level 1 session. If a coach decides just to work their riders over 1 or 2 poles placed around the school, the same warm-up procedure will need to be followed. This leader is demonstrating how to warm up a pony for a level 2 session. Horses and ponies will need to have been trained at the 3rd stage of leading. Leaders must be well practiced to become confident to take part in the activity. Once the leader is shown competence at leading at level 1, it is advised they practice leading over raised jumps at the height set for the level 2 session, without RDA riders mounted. Before a leader can help lead at this level, they will need to be assessed by a level 2 coach to show they can control a horse or pony as shown at this level. You will observe how the leaders work in the pony on jumping lines and maintaining control at all times. It is almost natural for horse or pony to want to return to the leader's side for direction. Remember, during the session, the rider will be mounted and will be encouraged to help steer and control to keep the horse straight. Once the rider can maintain control, the leader's role will then act as extra security. This part of the DVD looks at level 1, the most basic part of the show jumping program. Here we have the coach explaining to the riders what will be involved in the session. There are 3 riders, all have severe learning difficulties, 2 have Down syndrome and 1 has cerebral palsy. The level 1 program is designed to encourage as many coaches and riders as possible to take part in an RDA show jumping. Even though riders at this level will only be working over poles on the ground, the emphasis is for them to gain valuable physical, mental and educational skills by following a coaching pathway progressing to the next jumping level. Coaches that have had no past experience in coaching jumping are advised to access the RDA website for advice and guidance on how to deliver a show jumping session. So all our RDA riders are given the opportunity to enjoy jumping as an extra discipline. If further advice is required, each region throughout the UK has a qualified regional RDA show jumping coach, and their role is to assist groups and coaches with promoting and delivering jumping in their region. As you can see, the coach has started the session and chose to warm up the riders by working on their light seat positions. She has kept her instructions brief and had asked the riders to look ahead, rest hands down onto the horse's shoulder, which allows the rider to ride with a lighter contact and helps balance the upper body. And then they lift their seat out of the saddle. This very brief but to the point instructions should be enough for our riders to retain. As the rider's upper body balance becomes more secure, the rider will be encouraged to lighten the amount of weight they are resting onto the horse's shoulder. The RDA rider's light seat position will be looked at in slightly more depth later on in the DVD. The lesson has now progressed to working the riders over poles. Leaders are leading at the first and second stage of leading, encouraging the riders to ride independently by directing the horse over the centre of each pole and to control the horse around the school while riding correct jumping lines. You will notice white blocks are placed around the arena to help direct the riders onto the jumping lines. At level 2 and 3, some of these blocks are removed to test the rider's ability to ride better lines without depending on the blocks for guidance. This will allow progression to be shown. As the riders are riding over the poles, the coach is asking the riders to ensure they demonstrate in the light seat position while on the approach, over and after the pole. This method of coaching will enable our riders to adapt a balanced light seat position in preparation for the level 2 when the poles are raised off the ground. The leader is now challenging the rider to work independently to see how well she has progressed during the session. You will note at times some additional help is required. This is our rider with cerebral palsy and is limited to how far she can fold in the light seat position. However, she's trying her best to show she's in control, but again this will be restricted, but lots of positives are being seen. You can see how hard she's trying to ensure she rides to the centre of the pole. She's making every effort to stay on the jumping lines, and even though she finds it difficult to fold when riding over the poles, she still attempts the movement. Lots of physical benefits, rider satisfaction and a sense of achievement will be gained as she completes the course. The next 2 riders are a little bit more able to ride independently. You will see the leaders now working at the 3rd stage of leading, allowing the riders to show how well they ride with minimum assistance from the leader. You will notice no additional specialist tack is used for these riders. However, each centre and coach will be permitted to use specialist RDA tack if required. The coach is continually working on improving the rider's balanced position and effectiveness while riding around the course. This is evident as she is asking the riders for a better quality of walk from the horses. Coaches must be aware, while delivering a show jumping coaching session, the riders must not undo all the hard work put into the flat work lessons that develop their initial riding skills. For our riders to ride around a course of poles requires them to process a lot of information quickly before moving on to each element, so coaches are reminded to break down as much information when given instructions. Here the coach is working on the rider's light seat position, which is appropriate at level 1. The base of support is plenty of weight down onto the lower leg, rider looking forward, hands resting very lightly onto the horse's neck with the seat raised up out of the saddle. This rider is obviously riding too long to try to gain a balanced position and relying on balance through the hands, so the coach will work on this. Here again is our rider, nice straight back, little bit too forward for the light seat position, almost the jumping position. So again the coach will work on this rider. Here we have our rider demonstrating the light seat position, which is appropriate for level 1. The seat has been raised slightly out of the saddle, the rider is folded from the pelvis just very slightly, and the hands went forward. For level 2 and 3, the rider needs to be moving on and working more in the jumping position. A secure lower leg is very important. The seat is raised slightly out of the saddle and the rider is folded from the pelvis a little bit lower down towards the horse's neck, and the rider sits back gently into the saddle. This is the level 2 course. It's changed from level 1 to allow the riders to show progression. We've gone from 4 jumps to 5 jumps, and the jumps are now raised up off the floor. Also, we've moved the 2 corner markers just after fence 2 and just after fence 3, and that allows us to show the riders progressing on how to ride correct show jumping lines. We now join a level 2 session. The horses have been warmed up by the leaders, following the same procedure as seen earlier. The riders are working on flat work exercises before the coach allows them to start jumping. This is an important part of the jumping session. The coach will be assessing the rider's ability to see if they're working the horses effectively before she allows them to jump. The coach has decided to start the lesson working this rider over poles. This rider is a competent level 2 rider, but she wants to assess the rider's concentration and physical ability before she's happy for him to jump. This shows a professional approach in how to deliver a jumping session. The coach is now happy for the rider to continue and asks him to progress to trot. This method of coaching should be used in case the rider may be over-challenged at the start of each session, avoiding any loss of confidence from the rider or even an accident if the rider was not performing to their usual physical ability. This rider is working at the 3rd stage of leading, which means he should be in control of the horse and working in a balanced position. The leader is there as a means of giving the rider confidence and helps with the rider's effectiveness to create impulsion. At this level, you will see some riders making their horses walk between jumps 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. This has developed the rider's ability to show they are in control while riding around corners and straight lines. Once they have ridden onto their jumping lines and are placed straight to the next jump, the riders are taught to ask the horses to trot in preparation for the next jump. The coach has identified even though the rider is showing signs of being in control, he needs to work on his light seat position. This rider is showing he is in control and able to hold a light seat position during the jumping phase. The leader is showing a good leading technique. She is back at the rider's leg, doing very little work while leading at the third stage. However, she knows she may be needed to take control if she felt the rider was unbalanced or losing control. This rider would appear that he is ready to work off the lead rein at level 2. Our final rider is working independently at level 2. She's progressed from level 1 to level 2, and even though she appears to ride well at this level, she still needs to work on her jumping position. She lacks confidence at present to progress to level 3, so she's working with her coach on flat work exercise in canter over poles to improve her ability to progress to level 3. Now we've moved on to level 3. Level 3 still involves 5 jumps. The jumps have been raised to 2 foot maximum, and the spread, fence number 3, is 1 foot 6. What you're about to see is a level 3 lesson in progress. This rider is a grade 3 RDA dressage rider. The coach has seen the rider warm up in walk, trot and canter, and we join the session with the rider doing pole work. The coach is assessing the rider's ability to maintain a balanced light seat while maintaining a straight line and active trot. Trotting pole distances may cause strain to our RDA horses. These poles are placed around 9 foot apart but will achieve the same outcome from the rider. Canter is now introduced and the poles have been set at one non-jumping stride, that's around 21 foot, to enable the rider to work on effectiveness within the canter and the light seat position in preparation for the jumping position, which you can see the rider attempting as she continues to ride through the exercise. At this stage, the coach will be assessing the quality of the canter, checking it's balanced, rhythmic and working forward enough to allow the rider to be prepared to start jumping. The rider needs to be given a little more with the reins, and even though the rider is landing lightly in the saddle, the seat needs to be raised a little higher in preparation for the moment of suspension and flight phase of the jump. Both the coach and rider are happy to proceed to jumping part of the session and have started working over a single cross pole. It is good to see the rider has started to give with a little more rein and has maintained a good canter, which was established earlier in the session. Riders working at level 3 will need to be working independently in canter and will be required to warm up their own horses once mounted. The jump has now been raised to an upright. Coaches are reminded, when delivering a level 2 or 3 session, to start the jumps at a low height and gradually go higher once the rider is confident and competence is shown. The coach has built a related distance of 3 strides from fence to fence to check if the rider has continued to maintain a good jumping canter. As you can see, the rider has put 4 strides in. This is due to lack of impulsion on the approach and after the fence. The rider has been asked to collect and create more impulsion. And now you'll see the exercise is ridden correctly. This rider has now moved on to a spread. This could have been positioned on the long side to start with, but our rider has chosen to have it placed in the position where it is placed on the level 3 course. The rider is now attempting to ride around a level 3 course, which consists of 5 jumps. The layout of the course is the same as a level 1 and 2. The reason for doing this is for our riders to face the challenge of completing a familiar course with the jumps in the same place, but the degree of effectiveness is a little more challenging as the jump gets higher as the rider progresses through 3 levels. Having delivered this show jumping coaching program for the past few years to my own RDA groups, I have been delighted to observe how well riders improve not only in their flat work and jumping technique, but also their self-confidence grows from achieving goals they may have set with their own coach, as is evident with this rider. This is one of our riders attempting the level 1 class while being led. The judge will observe if the rider waited for the bell to sound before she rode through the start. Then the rider will be marked on the jumping line she rides, her effectiveness to keep an active walk, her flat work position between jumps, and her light seat position on the approach, over and after the jump. Leaders can assist verbally, and physical input can be given to avoid any accidents occurring. It would be great to see as many of our RDA riders attempting this level of competition. Here are the judges taking notes and marking each movement, just the same as in a dressage test. The rider will be entitled to have their score sheet at the end of the class, which will give the rider advice on how well they rode. The class will be run by the rider that gains the highest marks. Unfortunately, the rider will lose marks if the leader is seen to help the rider steer or create impulsion. More information regarding this competition is available on the RDA website. This rider is riding the level 1 class independently. As you can see, he has a good basic flat work and light seat position, and he's also riding good jumping lines. While this rider completes his level 1 course, I would like coaches to remember, if they have riders working at level 1 or 2 and they are working independently without a leader over poles at level 1 or jumping at level 2 without a leader, these riders, at the coach's discretion, should be able to warm up their horses at the start of the session. In this situation, leaders are not required to warm up the horses before the session starts. However, it is at the coach's responsibility to make this decision. Continue to watch our rider, doing a very good job, hopefully getting high marks from our judges. Maybe could do with creating a little bit more impulsion. It is also very important for our riders to learn to ride through the finish line. This rider is attempting the level 2 course while being led. He is confident to ride at this level, and even though his position needs improving, he is trying to steer and ride correct lines and is not landing heavy on the pony's back. Unfortunately, you could see the leader using the lead rein to create impulsion. This means the rider will lose marks on how he rode from fences 2 to 3. You will notice, due to the rider not working in balance at this level, the reins are attached to the head collar for pony comfort. Groups are reminded to go around each jump and not over it while leading in any level 2 show jumping session. This rider is working independently at level 2. She has created plenty of impulsion and is riding in a balanced position throughout, so should gain good marks at this level. As we observe this pony's jumping style, he has an ideal example of how a level 2 RDA horse should jump. He stays in balance while jumping, making the rider stay in control and maintain a balanced position throughout the jumping phase. Here our rider attempts the level 3 course. A good canter is demonstrated and a good jump in line. However, I feel the rider may lose marks from the judges due to maybe getting a little tired and not maintaining the jumping position on the flight part of the jump. January the 1st, 2013 will see the introduction of show jumping as a new discipline in RDA. This is a major development that will allow RDA riders to receive coaching from qualified RDA show jumping coaches in each region across the whole of the UK. It has taken several years in the planning to get where we are today, with input from RDA qualified coaches, riders, our volunteers, RDA physios, BHS qualified instructors and British show jumping. RDA are pleased to announce that there are now show jumping coaching qualifications for our instructors to achieve, rider show jumping proficiency tests and regional, national show jumping qualifiers for our riders to compete in. For clarification, all groups are encouraged to continue to use pole work in their flat work sessions and no show jumping assessment procedure is required, providing riders are not progressing to jumping. A show jumping session is defined as coaches working the rider in a light seat jumping position over poles or jumps. An assessment will be required for this activity to continue. A jump is defined as a pole raised off the ground or an obstacle like a log. The aim of this DVD was for me to give RDA coaches and leaders some guidance on how to deliver basic show jumping coaching sessions. But remember to visit the RDA website for more information regarding show jumping within RDA. Thank you for watching.